Welcome to Close Listening. I'm Zach Morgenstern, and though you can barely see him today, here is silent co-host Ludwig von Beek. I have some guests in the studio. These are Turtles, so I have a slight hope that some of them are Mark Volman and Howard Kaylan, because today I am talking their music, their 1960s band, the Turtles. This is a band I've vaguely been aware of through the years. I think I first found out about them because they covered a favorite song of mine, Bob Dylan's It Ain't Me Babe, but of course they're most known for the song So Happy Together. They have an intriguing name. As you can see, I like turtles. I wanted to be a fan of this band. I've not known much about them for years, so I'm just beginning that journey of learning about them. I tried to see if there was much of a story behind the name, but superficially looking, all I can tell is they were following the trend of other groups like the Beatles and the Byrds, and originally they wanted to intentionally misspell it, Tyrtles, Turtles, but that didn't last. It's kind of an interesting idea, just following a trend, make your band set up for a success where people just going to see it as a cheap knockoff. And maybe it doesn't matter depending on what the ambitions are of producers. But I've been looking into them a bit. From what I can see, the structure of the Turtles is unlike a lot of bands. They seem to be jointly fronted by two different lead singers, those guys I just mentioned, Mark Volman and Howard Kaylan. And they continued to work together throughout the years. At one point, they were known as Eddie and Flo.
Scratch that. Flo and Eddie. And they were called that because apparently they were contractually barred from calling themselves either the Turtles or even their real names.
Keyboard player / guitarist Al Nickel was the only other player who lasted for the band's entire duration. If you look up bands on Wikipedia, any other band other than the Beatles, and I guess even to a tiny degree the Beatles, you'll see there isn't really one coherent thing that's the band. Some of the members are constantly changing. So Volman, Kaylan, and Nickel seem to be the core members of this group. But this record here, it's a greatest hits record. It covers the period from 1965 to 1967. From what I can see, the Turtles didn't necessarily at first have the ambitions of a group like the Beatles. There certainly were songs credited to members of the Turtles. Howard Kaylan seems to be the most prolific member of all of them. That said, a lot of them, up to the point of this greatest hits record being released, seem to rely on outside songwriters. And the most prominent of those songwriters seem to be Gary Bonner and Alan Gordon. They going on to be the writers of So Happy Together. Bonner and Gordon were members of various bands, including one called The Magicians, and they won the attention of the Turtles by writing that song, Happy Together. However, when the Turtles got the demo of the song, they weren't necessarily in love with it. They didn't like the way that Gordon and Bonner's low-budget demo sounded. But because I guess they weren't very big songwriters themselves, they were running out of material and thought they would give that one a try, and the rest would be history. So let's quickly go through what material is on this record. The first track I thought was a pretty good one. It's called You Baby. I feel like the sound of it reminds me a bit of a similar contemporary group in the Hollies. But whereas the Hollies went for a big sound and having vocal harmonies between the three main singers, it feels like the Turtles experimented with different solo singers singing in different kind of voices. At times this opening song sounds Motowny, at times it sounds Beach Boyish, and at times it sounds like, its own thing. This song was written by P.F. Sloan and Steve Barry, who also seem to have written a number of songs for the Turtles. I looked them up. They are not Motown songwriters. They appear to be New York Jewish boys who ended up moving to Los Angeles and being part of that scene. And like Gordon and Bonner, I think had ambitions for a solo career of their own, but mostly were known for writing songs for others, most notably the protest songs, The Eve of Destruction and The Sins of the Family. Track number 2 is called So Goes Love. This one also written by some pretty big songwriters, Gerry Goffin and Carole King. This one has a thick sound, and again, it kind of feels like a mix of different genres. It starts in a minor key, but it's not too serious. It also has a kind of psychedelic element in there. If you look at the lyrics, it's kind of a weird song about, relationships ending. Its message is kind of, that's the way the cookie crumbles. You're going to be sad and too bad. But because it's presented as a pop song, you're not really supposed to pay much attention to the meaning, though maybe Gerry Goffin would disagree with that and wants you to contemplate the substance of his lyrical poetry. Track number 3 is She'd Rather Be Mine. This one has a similar big sound to the last few tracks. At times I found this entertainingly theatrical. At other times I found the sound a bit too big, a bit thick, a bit soupy. I guess that adjective was coming to me because I know the Turtles at one point put out a record called Turtle Soup. Track number 4 is called Is It Any Wonder? Finally, we have a song written by a member of the Turtles, Howard Kellen, and maybe because it's the first singer-songwriter tune on this record, the vocal on it sounded uniquely vulnerable. Maybe too vulnerable at times. Maybe it sounded a bit too thin for that very thick production. That said, at very least with the song, the chorus instantly sticks in your head. Is it any wonder? Track number 5 is called Let Me Be. This one also stands out for having a bit of a vulnerable vocal, though the balance with the production I found was a bit better this time. I also found the subject matter of the poppy lyrics to be, reasonably clever for pop music. It's a conflict between someone who wants a sort of socially acceptable relationship, I don't know, like maybe getting married relatively soon, versus someone who wants the freedom to be themselves. Track number 6 and the end of side 1 on the record is a bit of a stylized one. It's called Grim Reaper of Love. This is another track where I found the chorus very striking. They literally say the title, and I think it comes across well. But again, I might like to hear it be experimented with. The rich production certainly makes it a stylized Halloween song, but maybe the song would be more affecting and feel like it has some meaning and not just be a gimmick if it was maybe just played on a haunting acoustic guitar like a late career Johnny Cash or something. Side B of this record gives us the 2 big hits. So it starts with the Bob Dylan cover, It Ain't Me, Babe. It's quite a classic in Bob Dylan's repertoire because it was his indirect way of announcing he was tired of being typecast as a protest singer. He might have written some protest songs, but he did not like having the pressure on him being the voice of a generation. So though it's nominally a breakup song, when Bob Dylan sings it, at least what he's saying is, no, I'm not the voice of a generation. It ain't me, babe. The thick Turtles production certainly helps with a track like this. It fills it out. It makes it catchier. The vocal performances were also very good. There was a very searing delivery, no, 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 on the chorus versus a great vulnerable vocal during the verses. It occurred to me, Bob Dylan, by many seen as the greatest songwriter ever, had a lot of his music covered, but disproportionately was the music from the first few years of his career when he was playing it entirely on acoustic guitar. You don't really hear covers of songs like a Rolling Stone and later. And I guess it's because the pop gaps felt like they had a niche on the chart. Like the original Dylan songs were not going to be hits because something was missing in them. So they play those songs with full instrumentation, and groups like the Turtles or the Byrds are able to get hits out of them. Track number 8 is called Can I Get to Know You Better? This is another song with that Beach Boys Motown feel I was talking about from track 1, and indeed, it is those same 2 composers, Sloan and Barry. This one is a song about the awkwardness of figuring out how to initiate a relationship. It might be an even more interesting song in today's age where so many people feel awkward initiating a relationship, not just using a dating app and just, going out with whoever the app matches with. I've never used them. I don't know the exact psychology behind it, but yeah, I feel like people have always been nervous about asking people out. And so a song like this, which I thought was one of the stronger ones on the record, might be even more compelling today. Track number 9 finally takes us to the big hit, Happy Together. I guess you might know it as So Happy Together. This one probably has the best production on the album. So I've been complaining about some of these songs where they just use big sounds in a way that it kind of drowns out the tune. But here the sound is perfectly in check. The music is very quiet on the verses, and it kind of explodes on the chorus, but it's still well compressed. This song mixes the feelings of sort of noir movie cool with a more colorful euphoria. It's a song about almost nothing, yet the cocky turns of phrases like, no matter how they toss the dice, just give it that unique personality that makes it the Turtles' anthem. That said, I have to point out one downside with the chorus. I don't get why both couplets in the chorus have to end with "for all my life." I don't know why they couldn't have found something else to rhyme "for all my life" with rather than repeating it. Track number 10 is called Outside Chance. This sounds kind of like an early Beatles song, not necessarily one of the best ones, but a fine one. Kind of has vibes of both It Won't Be Long Now and Day Tripper in it. And it has another notable co-writer behind it, the late great Warren Zevon. And finally, track number 11 is You Know What I Mean. I found this was one of the most charismatic vocal performances we've heard on the album. And again, the Turtles are great at doing different kinds of vocal styling. So we have a great charismatic lead vocal and a very affecting choral sounding backup vocal. And that chorus singing mixing with the sound of strings almost gives you the sense of a happy scene and a kind of over the top colorful movie. At the same time, does it work as a catchy song? Not so much, again, because I feel like there's just too much production going on. The song is larger than life that makes you feel cool when you hear it, but also doesn't necessarily stick with you. So I was glad to listen to the Turtles, and there were certainly some tracks on here that I really enjoyed that I hadn't heard of before, I guess particularly the songs by Sloan and Barry. And I thought, is it any wonder? The song by Howard Kaylan, well, not my favorite, certainly had some potential to it. So probably I'll try and seek out some of the Turtle Studio albums down the road. You know, I just love the aesthetic of aquatic creatures, as you can see. So I want this to be a favorite band of mine. I don't know if there's enough material there for them really to rank among the greats. They were only around for 5 years. And again, they saw themselves as a pop band, not necessarily a cutting edge innovator like the Beatles. But again, Kaylan and Vorman have been sticking around all these years, continuing to make music. So I'm sure there's a lot there, and I look forward to checking it out. I'm Zach Morgenstern. This is Ludwig von Bee. See you next time.